In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how you guys can make your first earnings in Fortnite. As you guys probably already know, I am an FNCS champion with over $600,000 in earnings in Fortnite. And now I'm going to use my 6 years of competitive Fortnite experience for all you guys watching to take your first steps into earning your first time ever. To do this, I made a post across all my social media platforms asking you guys what questions you guys had about starting to make money in Fortnite. And I'm gonna be answering all these questions throughout the video, especially with solo cash ups coming back to Fortnite. There is literally no better time than to now grind for your first earnings. Make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below if you guys have any other questions about making your first earnings. With further ado, let's just jump right into this video. The first question is, how do you play off spawn? It depends on the drop first, right? Is it a 50-50 drop? Is it a drop where you split it up and you fight from different angles? Is it a drop where you could loot up and run away, right? And if you're going into it knowing you're landing at a 50-50 drop, first thing that you need to make sure you do is have a good drop and make sure you guys know where you're landing. Okay, that's number one if you're landing at a 50-50 drop. Number two, if you're landing in a split drop where you land on one side, the other team lands on the other, and then you fight, make sure you guys have a good loot route of where you're landing as well and know how much loot you can get and get up mats and just take good angles, okay? It's all about angles all spawn. Of course, when you're 50-50, it's whoever gets the gun at the chest, whoever gets the gun on the floor. It's just who has a better drop, right? But when you're splitting it, you want to make sure who has more loot than the other team will always end up winning, right? And it's always whoever has more mats, right? Who has better guns. So make sure you guys are landing on a side of the POI where you get more mats, more loot, more everything, and make sure you guys just out-loot them, out-everything them, and win that fight, right? And also make sure you guys take angles and lurk plays. These are all good, right? And singling out solos. There's so many different factors that go onto it. This is a vague question, but that's basically like the simple terms of it, right? Next question. Best way to preserve mats at endgame and how to get height or stay on height, because I always seem to get shot down. The best way to preserve mats in endgame is number one, use rotation in endgame, right? Right now we know in the meta, this current meta, it is fizz crash pads, right? With crash pads, you can crash pad yourself front, you can get in front of the low ground or on mid ground and not waste any mats, and stop overbuilding. That's another one. I see a lot of you guys in endgame overbuilding, wasting too many mats because you're overbuilding, right? Just calm down and just do cheap tarps and make sure you're good, right? And use rotation, like I said. And the way to get height, the way I love to get height is by looking up, having info, and seeing if they're connected, where you could chop them, or if you could go front and chop them out, right? So make sure you are always staying front, having eyes on height, and seeing if it's possible to chop them, or if you could build up from the front, if they're shambles, and you could take it, right? And whenever you stay on height and you're getting shot down, it's because you're not connected, and you're also not pressuring the team that's looking up. Let's say if I'm on height and there's this team looking at me, I'm telling my team, let's pressure this team right here, because this is the only team that's really going to be a threat. Next question. What makes a good solo spot? I think a good solo spot just comes down to decent amount of loot. You don't need to have a lot of loot in solos, in my opinion. And I think you just need to have a spot that will give you mats and rotation, right? So the rotation is just crash pads, right? You just need to get a spot where you'll be able to have enough loot where you'll be able to get crash pads or fizz, and make sure you guys can also get enough mats at this spot. So like the wooden brick is not as important as the metal in solos, in my opinion, because wooden brick you can just rotate and farm along the way, but with metal you need to make sure you land in an area where it gives you 500 metal. So that's what I think makes a good solo spot. What's the biggest mistake players make when they're going for their first earnings? I think the biggest mistake players make is that they get nervous. I don't even think they have a mistake. They just get nervous and they're like in their head about it while it's happening. And one thing of my advice that I could give you is just like, don't even think about that. Literally, when you're in that game to do well or to make your first earnings, don't think, oh my god, I'm gonna make my first earnings. Of course that's gonna make you nervous. You want to just play your game out. What's the best possible thing I can do in this time and moment? But if you're in your head about something, it will not turn out good for you. I think that's a really big mistake I see first players make. Next question. How do you think you should play mid game? Is playing storm in solos good, sitting in center zone, etc.? I think it depends a lot on if you have rotation or not, right? And how mid game should be played should be just like, I think center zone is fine if you have rotation, right? So wherever it pulls, you can go front, stay front. Storm is also good in solos, but you need to make sure you have an area and a plan to play storm where you'll have enough whites to get in. You won't be able to get lobbied by the entire lobby, and you have a good rotate in zone, right? So it all depends on how you like to play and your play style. Personally, I just like to sit center zone and just rotate front whenever zone pulls. Next question. What's one way to take down an opponent way better than you? A way to take down your opponent is to play defensive. I think one thing which is really, really good in fighting is playing defensive, and people that are better than you tend to get more aggressive, and if you have good defense in a box, like box fighting, you will end up always just winning in the fight. That's the way I see it, and a lot of pros end up losing in box fights because they get too cocky, they get too aggressive, and they get out-aimed and they lose, right? Ever wonder how some players hear footsteps before they even see the enemy? It's not magic, it's SteelSeries Sonar, the ultimate free audio software for gamers. Sonar gives you a competitive edge by letting you pinpoint exactly where your enemies are. It's not just surround sound, it's spatial audio powered by real in-game data. And the best part is, it's completely free, no SteelSeries headset required. With Sonar, you control every detail, adjust game and voice chat volumes independently, use pro-tuned presets made by esports players, boost any mic with noise reduction so you sound crystal clear, and unlock the most precise audio tuning in gaming with equalizers. And I've been using Sonar, trust me, it changes everything. Download it now with the link in the description, and if you're ready to upgrade your gear, use code Khanada15 for 15% off in the entire SteelSeries website. Get SteelSeries Sonar today completely free so you hear what your teammates don't. Next question. How to know when to switch layers on my mat situation and how to get me getting lobbied on rotates. Okay, number one, in endgame to switch layers for your mat situation, I think it all comes down to how many mats you have and if you're on a layer to get a refresh, right? Let's say you're on height. It's harder to get a refresh. Maybe you'll be able to win the game. But of course, if you're on height, you want to have a good amount of mats and you just want to be spraying, right? If you're playing mid ground, this is where you can get more refreshes and you want to also have more mats because you're going to be tarping more on mid ground, and on low ground, you're not going to be tarping as much. You're going to probably try to stay on the side of zone and look for even more refreshes down on low ground, right? And to stop you getting lobbied on rotates, I think it depends on where you are. If you're getting in last, of course you're gonna get lobbied, right? I think if you stay front, you'll be fine, right? Just make sure you stay front on rotates and don't tunnel vision, okay? Next question. How to survive mid game when people tend to key and not play zones and rotate. I think people key you if you're not in a good spot, and if they need surge or something like that to survive mid game, I think you have to either play in storm and rotate dead side, or you have to just make sure you're in center zone in a good spot where people have a hard time to get to key you. So let's say I'm on a hill and I have a good base on the hill. People are not going to see that and be like, let's key that, because it's going to be way harder to be able to key you, right? So just make sure you're rotating front, like I said, and just make sure you have a good area where you're boxing. If you're boxing on low ground and I see you in an open game, I'm keying that. You know what I'm saying? If you're on height, on a hill, I'm going to be like, oh, wow, like let's not key this team. This team is going to they have an advantage over us, right? Next question. Fizz meta, how can I not get shot and moving? It's like everyone is pumping my back. I think it all comes down to where you're rotating and if you're not building your backs and you're not rotating at a good time. I think if you are rotating while no one else is rotating, of course you're gonna get shot and you're gonna be in a bad timing, right? But if you're rotating while everyone else is going, you could build off your sides and just put floor and just jump your head back and forth and go front, right? So make sure you rotate at a good time and make sure you also are using more mats to build off your back, right? It's just building and taking your time and looking for better rotates. Never panic, okay? Next question. Can I earn on 120 FPS console? 100%. I've seen a lot of console players earn in PC events, and especially in solo cash cups, right? This is where you can come back and have your earnings. So it is possible. That was just a question, I guess. Next question, what is the best way to warm up before a tournament? I think the best way to warm up is, number one, get your fingers warmed up right when you get on. Get your fingers in a free build state. Go to free build a little bit, right? Get them warmed up. Then after that, you want to go and PG someone, like one of your friends or someone better than you. Do that. And if you want to, you can also go on a mechanics training map, hit some edit courses here and there, and then I think you're set, right? Of course, if you want to Kovacs, you can Kovacs as well. I don't personally Kovacs anymore, but I used to. Next question. How much % of solos do you think is pure fighting? What's the split between fighting and decision, if that makes sense? I think solos is more fighting in endgame, not more mid-game, because in endgame, you can't, as a solo, be as stacked as someone else, right? You're going to have to get like kills and eliminations, right? You're going to need refreshes, right? You can't tarp an entire endgame, right? You're going to just have to rotate box, look for something like any refreshes. So I think it's more fighting than decision, because at the end of the day in solos, if you make a stupid decision but you end up killing somebody, you'll be fine. So I think it is more fighting. Next question. Is solo ranked a good game mode to practice fighting in now that it has comp loot pool? 100%. I think solo ranked is basically your best way to learn how to fight in solos, because you can also run into pros in these solo ranked games, and if you're in Unreal, it's going to be harder lobbies, so try to play that. Next question. What's the best way to VOD review your solo games to actually improve? I think the best way to VOD review your solo games is to see where it all basically went wrong. Where did you lose all your mats? What rotate was a bad rotate? Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of you guys have bad mid-game rotates besides endgame. Endgame, I think it's easier, but mid-game, you will probably get shambles and lose a lot of things, and you gotta just go back and see why that's happening. Next question. How do you keep good vibes throughout the whole cup? I tend to play worse when I get mad, and it becomes a spiral effect, especially in solos with no teammates. I think it just comes down to, of course, there's a time and point where like the tournament's just over, right? If it's like you're 7 games in and you have like 20 points, of course it's wraps. But at the start, if you have a bad game or two, it shouldn't affect anything. In solos, you could always come back, because you have to realize everyone is fighting themselves as well. And in solos, it's like one game brings you back. Literally have bad 2 games in the first 45 minutes of the tournament, right? But if you have a good game the next game, you'll always be able to come back, and just think of it. There's always gonna be another tournament. This tournament doesn't define you, you know? So just keep playing, try to learn something from it. Even if you didn't do it well, be like, what did I learn from this tournament, and what can I do better for next one, right? Next question. Most impactful solo maps in creative, and how to position where you're not gonna get instantly W keyed. I kind of answered this question earlier, but the most impactful solo map in creative, I think it is literally just PG's 1v1 or just mechanic trading for yourself. Those are your most impactful maps. And the positioning is, I think, on a hill. I think if you're more on a hill and with a big surge base on it, you're more likely not to get keyed. Next question. How to get in better positionings, and what do I do when none of the people in front of me are rotating with zone pulls max? I think then you are way too on edge, and you should just have to wait for them. You just have to follow when they leave, right? And if you have to tank, you have to tank zone, right? And in this meta, I think everyone will have chug splashes, so tanking will be fine, and using crash pads to get in after is fine. So just make sure you follow what they're doing and stay ahead of them, basically, right, before that. So don't get to a point where like they're in front of you. You want to be in front of them always, right? Next question. Is it worth landing a bad spot every game where you're guaranteed to get all spawn every game, or conning a good / decent spot every game and dying all spawn sometimes? I think in solos, bad spot doesn't really matter, because you'll end up finding other loot, blah, 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 blah. But in trios, I think it is more important to land a good, decent spot every game, and you might die all spawn sometimes, because it will give you a higher chance of doing well in the game, right? But in solos, I think it doesn't matter where you land. I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to if you have enough mats and you have decent loot to be able to make a play on someone else. Next question. How do you stay consistent in higher elo and better lobbies? The way to stay consistent, I would say, is just to understand what's happening in these higher elo lobbies, right? How are people playing differently? What are people doing different, right? And just learning from it every single time you play a new tournament, right? Be like, okay, we're in the high elo lobby. What happened in this lobby? This happened last time. Let's fix this. Don't do this anymore, and see, right? Just go back in a replay, watch it back, see what happens, see what you can do better. Next question. How do I fight a kid that keeps making metal boxes and dragging the fight and making his bow scuff? Just leave it. Just disengage. You have to understand, in Fortnite, you don't always have to fight. If you start fighting a kid, or they fight you and they're making 1,000 metal boxes, then you just have to disengage and run away, right? But let's say they start the fight, they start making 100 boxes, and then you try running and they start fighting you for it. After you try running, then you start fighting them from there, right? You want to fight them from outside of where they just built, okay? Because they're going to run out of mats as well. So just make sure you can disengage, or if not, you just have to crash out and just jump in his box and try to kill him. Next question. How to know when it's the right time to stop fighting for very aggressive fighters? The right time to stop fighting is when you're realizing that nothing's getting good in this fight. You're not getting anything out of it. You're losing more than you would gain, and you know that it's taking too long, and you need to go and farm back up or loot back up, right? So just think of it and be like, okay, this is a stupid fight. Like, we're not getting anything out of it. This team is actually good at the game, and we cannot fight them. So you just have to disengage. Next question. What is the most important thing to improve on for solos, and how? Most thing that's important to improve on in solos is to literally have a good mental and just stay front. I think in solos, it's important to just be first one rotating and also have a good mental throughout the tournament. I think that's literally the most important thing for solos, and if you do those two, you'll be fine. Next question. How can I stop being nervous in fights? Because in creative, I'm the king, but in game, I look like an average kid playing Fort. This is a good question. I think the way to not be nervous is like, why are you even in your head? Like, why do you care if you die or not, right? Like, in creative, of course, there's nothing on the line, but even in game, like, you gotta play like there's nothing on the line. Because at the end of the day, you're just gonna keep playing anyway. You're gonna keep playing the next tournament. There's always gonna be another tournament, another this, another that. This isn't the last tournament, right? If it was the last tournament, I get it. If you're in a fight and you're nervous, but you gotta play like you're in creative, right? Just go for it. Go for the play. Go for the clip. Go for what you would do in a creative fight, right? So you feel confident, right? That's the way to stop being nervous. Just don't overthink it and stop getting in your head about it. Last question of the video. What is the best loadout without question this season for solos? I think the best loadout is Sentinel Pump OXR rifle. But if you have enough surge, I think double pump is super good in this meta right now. Double pump and holding crash pads. And then I would say 6 chug splashes and a fizz, or fizz and 3 bigs. But I think double pump is really one of the best things that you can hold in solo. But I think that's all the questions. Maybe if I didn't get to your question and you commented, maybe for the next video, comment down below what you guys want to see and what you guys want for the next videos, right? So make sure you guys like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.